Welcome to the June 17th Lower Makefield Board of Supervisors meeting. I am John Lewis. I am your vice chair. Matt Ross is unable to join us this evening, so I will perform the duties of chair. Starting with call to order. Supervisor Reese.
Here.
Supervisor Grenier.
Here.
Supervisor Coyle.
Present.
And Supervisor Ross is working and will be working a lot, so that's why he can't join us tonight. And now we'll begin the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Before I go through the normal community announcements, I'd like to make a special note for folks. Our community recently lost two very important members. On May 19th, Faye Hackman, wife of former Supervisor Wes Hackman, passed away peacefully at home. And on June 8th, Bill Clark passed away. And he previously served on the Township Citizen Budget Commission, Planning Commission, and elected auditor. Special note about Ms. Hackman, I will say that spouses of supervisors unfortunately get thrust into a role that is not always a fun one, and so I have special thoughts about that, and so please know that both families are in our thoughts and prayers at this time. So as we go through the regular community announcement, remember, if you have announcements, you can email us at admin@lmt to request a special announcement to be added to the agenda. Want to make the most of the summer season? Well, there's no better way to do that than becoming a member of the LMT pool. Oh my gosh, it's a great way for families to relax, stay active, and enjoy everything our community has to offer. I can tell you that my wife joined the pool this year, and she's excited now that we're open evening hours, so you definitely want to be a part of that. You can still buy your membership at lmt.org or in person at the Lower Makefield Township Community Center. That's 1550 Oxford Valley Road. Resident household membership pricing is capped at $600. So no matter how many kids you have, bring them to the pool, you're capped at $600. We look forward to seeing you at the pool this season. Lower Makefield Township will be hosting a Red Cross blood drive on Friday, July 24th from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. in the main building room. That's right here. And to register, please visit redcrossblood.org and enter sponsor code Lower Makefield. One of the nice things about donating blood here in this actual room is the playlist that you get from the Red Cross and the snacks that are provided. Now, they don't have the famous Amos cookies anymore, but the new cookies are okay, the drinks are good, and the music is really great. I would say wonderful playlist. So if you're thinking about donating blood, please come on July 24th from 12 to 5. At this time, we're going to entertain public comment on 9 agenda items. And generally the rules of the road is please come up, state your name, whether you're a resident of Lower Makefield Township, and please keep your remarks to an initial 3 minutes. If you need more, we're usually pretty flexible about that. Generally, that's our rule of thumb. With that, we have one person who's up already.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Hasib Abdurrahman. I'm a public relations officer for and represent Zubaydah Foundation. And I want to thank the Lower Makefield Township Supervisors for giving me the opportunity to come before you insofar as Zubaydah Foundation is concerned. We are a foundation. We are also a masjid. The masjid is open 5 prayers a day, each and every day, 7 days a week. And also we have tour visitation as well. So if there's anyone in the community that's interested in visiting Zubaydah Foundation, then we can make arrangements for that to be made. And also we have a new building, and we're going to send out an invitation to each of the township supervisors in hopes that you will come out for the second most important press conference. We had one several years ago for the first opening of Zubaydah Foundation. We are happy to say many of the supervisors came out on that given day, so there will be an announcement forthcoming. There will be a personal invitation extended to each of you on this body, and then we're hopeful that that you come out. We did have a festival a couple of weeks ago. You were invited, even though maybe it was a last-minute notice, and thanks and appreciation to Congressman Fitzpatrick, who came and spent a considerable amount of time sitting among us. So, you know, thanks and appreciation. And also, I wanted to give a salute. I saw the police chief. I also always want to give kudos to the Lower Makefield Township Police Department in the work that they do, their professionalism, sensitivity, and they are proactive and very empathetic in terms of their dealing with us as a community. So thanks to Police Chief Kelly for his staff of professionalism. And also I noted on the agenda that Human Relations Commission, I'm definitely interested. I'm going to upgrade my my resume, and I saw on the agenda here that somebody's resigning. So if you can just keep me in mind, and I'll get my resume updated, upgraded within the next week to get it in there, and then I'll just be on standby in hopes that I would be considered. And that's my time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a blessed evening.
Is there anyone on the phone at this time?
No public comment.
Okay. Up. Come on up. Yeah.
Alan Barth, or Makefield. I find it unbelievable that this board has denied a second permit request for a nighttime ceremony on 9/11. You could allow the ceremony, but it has become abundantly clear you just won't. You have chosen to ignore the guidance by rabbis of significant stature that say it is permissible to have the nighttime ceremony on Rosh Hashanah. You have dismissed the multiple letter requests from Bucks County 9/11 families asking you to allow the Remembrance and Light ceremony despite telling you how much it means to them. You voted to approve a 5:30 to 7:27 slot for an evening ceremony, even though by your own admission, because of this, quote, logistically, the park would not be available for use for an additional event, end quote. And Mr. Coyle, you had the audacity to ask Mrs. Saraceni to compromise? You could move the 5:30 ceremony an hour more earlier to accommodate a nighttime event, but it seems you just won't. You say you're doing this out of respect for the Jewish community, but you've completely disrespect Jewish residents of Lower Makefield that are practically begging you to allow the nighttime ceremony. No matter how hard you try, you will never be able to make it dark before sundown. And the Remembrance and Light ceremony hinges on, out of darkness there's light. In an article by Joseph Epstein titled The Mensch on the Mound, he writes about a great American, Sandy Koufax, and I quote, although he did not grow up in a particularly devout household and was never bar mitzvahed, Koufax made himself notably Jewish by not pitching in the first game of the 1965 World Series because the game was played on Yom Kippur, end quote. Koufax didn't ask them to move the World Series for him. He just quietly made a choice. I'd also like to tell you about Jeremy Pressman, who grew up in Yardley, a devout Jew who also loved basketball. He attended Stern High School but transferred to Pennsbury his senior year because he wanted to compete at a higher level. Because of his faith, he told the coach he could not attend practice or games on Friday nights or Saturdays. The coach respected that, but by rights could not play him because he did not put in the time the others did. Jeremy did not ask PIAA to change the schedule, and he knew he would not get playing time. He quietly made his choice to be the 13th man on a 12-man squad. 9/11 families grieve privately 365 days a year, and the one day they are forced to grieve publicly, this board won't approve their humble request for a candlelight ceremony. I think it's absolutely shameful, and you all need to do a better job, much better, representing the residents of Lower Makefield. Thank you.
All right, any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 6. That's presentation of the audited financial statement for the year ending December 31st, 2025 from Zelenkofske Axelrod. I got it right this time. No, I'm not hearing it.
Light wasn't on. All right.
Okay, good.
Thanks for having me again. I know I was here a couple months ago to present the Township's 2024 audit. Given the efficiencies that we've had with Dave and Meg and the team, we were able to get through the 2025 audit pretty efficiently, and glad to be here on this evening to present 2025's audit. It'll be laid out the same way as the previous presentation, so just kind of run through it for you guys. So similar with the 2024, with the 2025, we expressed an unmodified opinion on the Township's financial statements. Similarly, that states that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. As with 2024, we were required to assess the internal controls for 2025. We did not identify any deficiencies in management's control process, and as a result, there's no management letter comment that was issued as part of the 2025 audit. The financial results from the 2025 audit for the governmental activities on the full accrual basis of accounting ended the year with a total net position of $104 million. The $104 million is comprised of net investment in capital assets of $84.7 million, restricted net position of $6 million, and unrestricted of $13.3 million. This is a $3.1 million increase from the prior year, and that $6 million of restricted net position is essentially restricted for special purpose or special revenue funds that the township has. The consolidated business type activities ended the year with a net position of $17.8 million. The 17.8 is comprised of net investment in capital assets of 13.9 and unrestricted net position of $3.9 million. This is a $292,000 increase from the prior year. For the township's general fund, which is the main operating fund of the township, the general fund ended the year with a fund balance of $2.8 million. This is a decrease of $701,000 from the prior year. The entire $2.8 million is unassigned as of year-end 2025, which means that the $2.8 can be spent for general government services as the township wishes. The total revenues for the year were $14.5 million, essentially on budget at $64,000, just roughly under budget. Total expenditures ended the year at $18.2 million, which were $134,000 over budget, which resulted in excess of expenditures over revenues of $3.7, but the fund did have other financing sources, transfers in and sale of capital assets and such of $3 million, which netted that decrease down to $7 million for the year for the general fund. Onto the business type funds, the sewer fund ended the year with a total net position of $2.9 million. That entire $2.9 is unassigned. This was a decrease of $482,000 in that net position during the year. The fund had total revenues of $533,000 and total expenses and transfers of roughly $1 million, netting to that decrease of $482,000. The community pool fund ended the year with a net position of $402,000. The $402,000 is comprised of net investment in capital assets of $643,000 and an unassigned deficit of $241,000. The change in net position, there was a decrease of $54,000 during the year. Total revenues and transfers in of 1.2 and total expenses, I mean, it's rounding of 1.2, but because of the rounding, it doesn't show that $54,000 decrease. The golf course fund ended the year with a net position of $14.5 million. The 14.5 is comprised of net investment in capital assets of $13.2 million and unassigned net position of $1.3 million. The change in that net position during the year, we saw an increase of $827,000, total revenues and transfers in of $4.7 million, and total expenses and transfers out of $3.8 million. That was the high-level financial results of the township for 2025. It was great working with Dave and Mega again. This is the third year of our engagement, and we saw it gradually got more and more efficient as we went along, just getting more accustomed with the township, and Mega being here for I guess, a year and change now, so her impact is certainly seen, so it's been a great experience so far. So,
Thank you for your presentation. I'm going to ask if any supervisors have questions. Supervisor Coyle?
I have some, but I was going to defer to the other supervisors who've been here longer and have been through more audits and may ask questions in a way that's more salient than mine.
To that end, I know Supervisor Lewis has a list of questions he asks every year, or every
Yeah.
month, this case, with the audits that usually cover the bases. So I'm going to defer to your question list just because I know they are.
I will also defer.
Then I'll let you go.
Sure. So from a general sense, you'd say that the audit was complete. You have no concerns about anything lingering, and do you have any concerns about the financial position of the township going forward?
concerns, no. I mean, I wouldn't say concerns. I mean, I think even in talking with Meg beforehand, there's things that the township's looking at, right? I mean, the general fund, you know, had that decrease of 700,000. That's something that's on your guys' radar. You know, the OPEB and pension shifted. I think it was a net decrease, you know, but fund level wise, I think because of the sewer sale proceeds and the money that you guys are getting as off of the interest, that's helping to keep your fund, governmental funds, you know, some money, you know, money that's given to you guys. I think it was, I don't know, decent. I have to open up the financial statements, but it was a pretty good chunk that you guys have for 25 because of the strong market. Concerns, no. I mean, operationally, control-wise, the controls for the township are strong based on our opinion. So I don't have any concerns, no.
Okay. The sewer fund that you discussed, that is the sanitary sewer fund that relates to the former operation of a sanitary sewer. Is that accurate?
It was the sewer proceeds, I think, that the sewer fund that's sitting in the business type, I think that's,
Yeah, those are excess operating revenues that reflect charges that were paid while you were providing sanitary sewer service, yes.
Right. So this sewer fund on this audit is sanitary sewer.
That is correct, yes.
It will not continue to increase because it is left over from that prior point of service. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. And again, I don't want to speak for Mega, but if you want to come up, perhaps you can. I mean, the intention is to potentially look to close out that account and
Right.
transfer those proceeds. And we need to have some conversations about, again, does it become unassigned general fund balance, for example? Does it, you know, provide for seed money for potential capital investment? Those are the kinds of conversations that we'll have. There is some small sort of residual delinquency collection that continues to occur, but I believe at this point those delinquent collectibles are being placed in the general fund. Is that correct?
So let me explain a little more. Sorry. So at the end of 2025, you're seeing that 2.4 million-ish, I think it was, to be exact. Net position, which 2.9. Okay. So, but our actual cash balance is higher. And I recently, in the last few weeks, found that there was a accrued expense that was sitting on the books that actually had to be reversed from 2021 that was never reversed. Again, this is me coming in and double checking everything now that we're clean on the audit side. I didn't want to check anything or do anything with that until I was comfortable with the audits, and now that we're caught up, I was able to go back and look. So we actually have a little bit more money. That net position technically is like 5.4 million. It was just sitting on behind in the books on the balance sheet.
Sorry, you said a little bit more money, and then we went from 2.9 to
Yeah,
5.
we actually
Yeah,
have
so
5.4
the accrued
in the bank.
so the accrued liability had to do with payment that was due to Morrisville Municipal Authority,
Right.
which was subject to you know, dispute or
Right.
discussion. And so that accrued entry that Meg is referencing, that liability has been paid. There was a settlement agreement that was entered. And so by virtue of the actual payment going out, now you have the ability to, that entry should have been reversed because the liability no longer
Yeah.
exists.
Right.
So the cash position of that fund is higher, which is
Right.
which will, again,
Sure.
provide for
If
some
you look at the
discussion on what we do with
financials
it.
today, I mean,
Yep.
in this next few weeks, I'm actually going to be, well, that 2.4 is booked in June. You won't see it in the current
Okay.
books that you saw, but your fund balance is now 5.4, or net position is around 5.4 million. Out of that, 118,555 to be exact, is, I've been looking at it way too long, accounts receivable that's still pending. So basically, that's receivables that we're still expecting from Portnoy, who's doing all of our collections. Right now, that is still actually sitting in the sewer fund. So how it's working is there's a receivable on the back end that we credit,
Right.
and then it goes into the bank. So that'll come down. So the plan, again, as long as you guys agree, is, we need to close that fund by the end of the year, maybe in the next few weeks if we can. That would be great, because, it's just an additional fund that we don't need. But we already have a transfer budgeted of that 2.9 or 2.4 million for 2026 that we were going to move, but we actually have more than that now.
Okay.
That we've looked through the books.
And under the law, there's no restrictions on the use for those funds. They
No.
can be transferred to the general fund as needed.
Correct.
Dan, were you going to ask a question on that topic?
No, it's a significant find, so glad
Yeah.
we found it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll get closer to the mic. No, it's on. No, I'm glad you found it. I'm obviously glad you're here.
There was some confusion because of how we have something called pooled cash. So another part of what I've been working on for a little while now is just making sure that our cash balances were tying, and that's how I found it. Basically, we had to basically move in our system and in our process, had to move out some of that, and that's how I found it. Our cash balance was way higher than what
Yeah.
was sitting in the fund, and it didn't make sense.
Any more Easter eggs out there?
I wish. No. Unfortunately, I think that's the end of it.
I think that's the last Easter egg.
That's
yeah.
the
Yeah.
last Easter
So
egg.
at some point fairly soon, we'll have to have a discussion at one of our meetings to figure out what to do with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just to be like 100% clear in case people, well, I know millions of people watch these meetings, right? Like, are you losing piles of money? No. When in accounting, when you accrue, you have to pay an expense later. You put that on your books as an expense.
Correct.
We have now settled out all expenses with the sewer settlement with Morrisville Sewer Authority. So now an audit has turned up. Okay, those funds that we had obligated are no longer obligated.
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, listen, the pool fund, the golf course fund, that all looks great. I would just say, do you have any recommendations for us, as a board as we move forward? It's hard to believe we're already in the back half of the year, so budget season isn't very far away.
Not really. I mean, I think recommendation-wise, you guys are paying down your debt. You're watching the OPEB and pension plans. I mean, those are being managed well. We're seeing those liabilities, come down or net negative, which is always a good thing to see. Yeah, nothing really comes to mind.
Final question. We're the best township you work with. Number one? Number one in your heart?
There you go.
All right. Thank you very much.
There you go, he says.
Number one tonight. Oh, man.
Yeah.
So I'm going to spare you the detailed questions that I typically ask because you got them just a couple months ago, but I will ask you to raise your right hand and tell me if you find any unfunded liabilities that we had not noticed or been aware of in any shape or form.
Correct. Yeah, we didn't find any
Okay.
liabilities.
Is your right hand raised?
there you
So
go.
help me God?
So help me God. There you
Okay,
go.
good.
Let the
And
record
that's-
reflect the gentleman raised his right hand.
As it relates to audits going forward, and I know, and we thank you for your work over the last couple of years, and I know you can serve only a fixed number of years before we have to RFP out. One area, to Supervisor Coyle's point, is I know you do a lot of municipalities, so any benchmarking things that you see, it doesn't have to be denied, and you could do this with Mega later and say, hey, listen, I've gone through all the audits of all the other municipalities we've done. Here's where you differ, positive or negative versus peer municipalities, just so that we know if we're missing something or we're, good at something. That's always good too. That's something just for the future we want you to think about.
Yeah, no, I think that's the benefit too. I mean, for municipalities, counties, I mean, that's something that we've shared before, metrics and, because the question that you're asking isn't the first time it's been asked. So, yeah, we can certainly share that information with Dave and Meg and the team, so.
Excellent. Now, before you're released on your own recognizance, at this point, I'll ask, are there any public comments about the audit? Is there anyone on the phone who has questions about our audit? With that, thank you very much, and thanks, Mega, as always.
All right, thank you.
Yep. So, moving on to agenda item 7. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, so the consent agenda item is a series of items that we review en masse. If anybody has any requirements that they want to remove any items, even in the public, you can come up with that. But hearing none and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the consent agenda?
Sorry, sir, may I offer a comment on the consent agenda items?
Sure.
I just want to acknowledge that Kathy Hanville is stepping down from her role in the Human Relations Commission. Kathy is continuing to serve the township as the chair of the Historic Commission. I want to make sure that we thank her for her service in being a part of the team that has gotten that Human Relations Commission off the ground. It is hard work. It is amazing work. We appreciate everything that she and that entire group have done. So thank you, Kathy, for your service.
On that note, I know when we were setting up the Human Relations Commission, I went to Kathy almost immediately as my first pick to be on the commission, given she has a technical background, a professional background, I should say, specifically related to that, and has done years of good work, not only here, but when she lived in California. So she was a great resource to get that commission established. It's up and running, it's doing well, and now she's free to do as she pleases, but we, as Supervisor Coyle said, thank her for her service.
With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the consent agenda items as listed signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any opposed? Let the record reflect that the vote was 4-0. Moving on to agenda item 8, engineers report. I know that your engineers report was in the packet. Are there any questions?
I did have a question, not in the packet, but I had asked Derek, I think in our prior public meeting or the one before. There's some development activity neighboring Yardley Crest that I believe the developer was responsible for making some road repairs, some bike path repairs. I haven't seen that in the engineer's report since, so I just wanted to get an update on where we are on that.
I'll follow up.
Derek has said from the back of the room that he will follow up. Thank you, Derek.
I have one. Derek, I think I spoke to you, but I want to make it clear to the people in Yardley Hunt that you have not forgotten about them, and that I believe you said Revere and other roads in, at least the portions of Revere Road are on the list for, I guess, next year, 2027.
Yeah, hopefully. I also forward you a link to our road program, so you can feel, and that's on our website. So you can actually see in that road program plan is also like a projection of the next 4 or 5 years. So, you know, I would hope that it's next year in 2027, but we don't know over the winter what happens. But yes, those roads are noted to be repaved in the near future. Yes.
Well, I do understand that when someone asked me, is it spring yet? I said, well, it's pothole season in Pennsylvania. And one other question, because I got this from a resident about dead trees on township property. I instructed them that they should call your office.
Correct. Yeah, I always call my office. Susan would always answer the phone. She'll get the information, the report, and we'll go out and investigate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 9, the manager's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board. The first item is to consider authorization to execute the 5th addendum to the golf course management agreement, extending the term of agreement through December 31st, 2027. That is the only term of the existing agreement that's being modified is the 1-year extension of term. All other terms and conditions within the existing agreement as modified by the prior addendums would still be in place.
Mr. Vice Chair, I move that we authorize the 5th addendum to the golf course management agreement, extending the term of the agreement through December 31st, 2027.
And you second.
With that, are there any comments or questions from board members?
No, I think it's correct.
Are there any comments or questions from members of the public, including those on the phone? All right. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let the record reflect that the motion passed 4-0.
Thank you very much. The next item is consider canceling the Board of Supervisors meeting scheduled for the first Wednesday in July. The board, given the proximity of that date to the 4th of July holiday, has generally canceled that meeting based on expected agenda items. There's nothing that is required to be dealt with immediately prior to that date or prior to your next scheduled meeting in July. So that's there for your consideration.
So moved.
I'll second.
Excellent. Any comments?
The only thing I would add is that I believe July 4th is, since it's on a Saturday this year, is also recognized on Friday.
That is correct, yes. So the township building would be closed on July the 3rd as well. So yes, that is correct.
Should I alternately move that we continue to have the meeting and we show up in wigs and colonial no, okay. No comments,
I have no
Mr. Vice Chair.
intention, excuse me.
I wasn't planning on using this.
But I have no intention, just to let Colin know, I have no intention on wearing a mob hat or a corset.
All righty. I'm not seeing any public comment or hearing any on the line, so with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Let the record reflect that the motion passed 4-0.
Thank you very much. We'll make sure to put notice on the website and also report that via social media. So the next item, or the final item that I have today, also in the sort of spirit of the upcoming holiday and what we're celebrating this year, is consideration of Resolution 26-10, just generally recognizing and commemorating America 250, the role of Bucks County in our nation's independence and our nation's founding, and then also recognizing the contributions of Lower Makefield Township in those efforts as well. So that resolution is there for your consideration and discussion.
Hear ye, hear ye. I move that we consider Resolution 2610, recognizing and commemorating America 250 and Lower Makefield Township's many contributions to the history of this fine nation.
I will second.
With that, is there any comments from?
One question.
Okay.
As I'm on the executive committee of Bucks 250, there are a lot of activities that will be going on in the next few weeks. Please take a moment. The township, I believe, has a copy of the Revolutionary Trail as well as some of the other things. We are the room where it happened this entire year through Washington's Crossing. Please, there's a QR code. Take a picture. You will see a great amount of wonderful things to see from one end of this county to the other.
Are there any public comments on this?
I think I have one editorial comment. And I think we're doing the later of the two that we received, the two draft versions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just want to make sure I was looking at the right one. There was, if we could, where did it go? In the portion of the resolution where it starts with whereas William Dark,
Okay.
I believe the word should be fledgling, not fledging. So we
Fledgling.
should add an L in there.
You're right.
But otherwise, I shows that I did read this in detail.
I
and
did
do
read it. You're
appreciate the
right. It
efforts
should
to
be
put this
fledgling.
together. I just noticed that when I was reading it just before this meeting.
I thought I saw it, but I thought it was me.
I didn't have to put on readers like John because I already have glasses, but I did take a second look.
Thank you for the catch. I will say that typo was mine and mine alone. While I offer the thanks to our amazing Historic Commission to their assistance in providing some important historical detail in this resolution.
Okay. Would the maker of the motion accept that edit as it is in the seconder?
I do, in fact, insist that we make that edit to the whereas related to William Dark, the commander of the Virginia regiments of the decisive siege of Yorktown, which led to the surrender of British forces, secured the independence of our fledgling nation, was born in what is now known as 5 Mile Woods in Lower Makefield Township.
And I will second.
Okay. Before I call the question, this is the point where I remind everybody that America started here. So all those people in Boston who have questions about this stuff, Pennsylvania, it's It's where everything got started. So with that, I'll call the question.
Sounds like a tea party.
I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Let the record reflect that the motion passed 4-0. With that, we'll move on to agenda item 10, Police Department report. Oh, I'm in trouble now.
Good evening, Supervisors. I present the Police Department report for May 2026 and year-to-date totals. In May 2026, the Police Department handled 1,179 incidents. The most common of those are patrol checks, medical aids, and alarms, bringing us to a yearly total of 5,589. Police Department issued 424 traffic warnings, bringing us to a yearly total of 2,327. We issued 144 citations for motor vehicle offenses, bringing us to a yearly total of 708. We issued 57 non-traffic citations, bringing us to a yearly total of 109. We investigated 30 motor vehicle accidents, bringing us to a yearly total of 170. 6 of those motor vehicle accidents were reportable, bringing us to a yearly total of 40. 11 incidents with motor vehicles and deer, bringing us to a yearly total of 35. We made 12 criminal arrests, bringing us to a yearly total of 54. Officers completed 239 community outreach details this month for a yearly total of 1,150. And our co-responder served 11 clients with 14 encounters, bringing her to a yearly total of 57 clients served and 105 encounters.
With that, any supervisors have questions?
I have one thing that I'd like to make a request that we consider for our bicycle riders, even just scooters, that we offer some safety classes. I think this morning, young person on a scooter did not realize that he also has to obey a stop sign. I wasn't even at the attending corner, and he almost hit my car.
We met with TMA this month, and we're planning a bike rodeo for education for children. That should occur sometime over the summer. We're trying to see if we can do that in conjunction with a pool event to get higher attendance, but that's all in the planning process right now.
Thank you.
I'm also familiar, because our school district is multi-municipal. Quarry Hill had their Yardley Borough Chief, who I know you know very well, and I believe the mayor went to Quarry Hill and talked about bicycle safety, because I think the borough's especially dealing with motorized or electric scooters and bikes. So that, I think that's a growing concern we hear about a lot. So bike safety is one thing, but now we have these extra fast, extra heavy.
Chief, I don't know if you wanted to address that issue in terms of some of the discussions around the potential of...
Yeah.
David and I had a discussion this week about that. Many of my colleagues around the county are having more severe problems than we are here, and they've began addressing that with ordinance. I've been gathering a few drafts, but I think we're at the point where we need to pass a municipal ordinance for e-bikes and related equipment.
I think that they need to go through some type of educational before, almost like licensing them, because I know there's a vast majority of kids using these electric scooters are very careful. But I think like I said, they need to understand that whether you're on a bike, a motorized bike, the stop signs, et cetera, that means you, not just the cars. It's hard to explain to a young person that it doesn't matter whose fault it is.
And we'd like to get ahead of that. I know New Jersey had a fatality yesterday, and unfortunately and tragically, I think these are going to continue because these are quiet conveyances, and they're flying in and out of the street.
If I may ask a question related, Chief, I have been hearing concerns from residents about people operating e-bikes on the canal and operating them at what they feel is unsafe speeds. There are signs posted on the canal that the use of electronic bikes is forbidden. Do you need an ordinance? Are you able to enforce that regulation as Lower Makefield Township on the portions of the canal that fall within our borders?
We can enforce state law in the canal. We can't enforce canal regulations on the canal. That's, the primary law enforcement agency for the canal is the DCNR Rangers.
Right.
But obviously, we assist them because they have one ranger usually from Upper Black Eddy down to Bristol.
Are we permitted under ordinance to cover that, to restrict the use of e-bikes on trails within the township?
That's a question for the solicitor, but I think if it was a ordinance that covers the township, the canal being inside the township, we'd be able to enforce our ordinance.
Okay, and, okay. So pending that action, are you able to spend a little bit of time on weekends? We've got a spare officer just to remind people that there is a regulation in place while we work through an ordinance, just to kind of up the visibility of that
We
regulation?
certainly can do that, but we're experiencing these same things on all our bike paths.
I know, I know.
So it's a growing issue.
Yeah, okay. And then my second question was related to the new state law around the use, or not even the use, having a mobile phone in your hand while operating a motor vehicle as a primary offense. So just to be clear, Lower Makefield Township Police are enforcing that primary offense?
We are, and we've advertised that on social media. The day that it became enforceable, I believe it was June 5th, and we are now enforcing that, correct.
How do you feel that's been going so far?
So far, so good. It's still being enforced through education, sometimes through citation, but this was another area of growing danger. New Jersey has had a regulation like a statute like this for many, many years, and we did not. And this, you would see phones in hands all over town. So we're hoping to drive that down through both education and enforcement.
Usually at traffic lights.
And sometimes not, which
Well, that's,
you could always tell someone on the highway because
yeah.
they leave a lot of following distance in front of them, so they're a giveaway.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Chief.
Sure.
And Chief, I think we may see an increase in deer collisions this month because it is fawn season. I know last night I was coming back from the gym, and there were 3 or 4 fawns trying to cross 295, which I'm not sure if they made it or not. I thankfully did not get them, but
I saw it too this week as well.
yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more this month. So everyone, please keep an eye out,
And please don't feed the deer.
or the geese.
Okay, with that one last question.
Sure, sir.
Have you looked at the overlap between co-responder visits and arrests? So are most cases where arrests are occurring, or most co-responder incidents occurring in leading to arrest or not?
I can't give you a hard data on it because I haven't examined it in that way, but anecdotally, in cases where people accept co-responder services, we're generally able to make headway and divert that from the criminal justice system.
And they can get help quickly.
Correct,
Yeah.
yes.
I just was like, it struck me the overlap, and I'm wondering because of the use of the co-responders and the kind of the volume of stuff that we're getting, that we want to make sure if we can divert safely, we want to do that.
The frustrating cases for us are where we get victims and participants that refuse co-responder services.
Yeah.
And then we generally know that we're going to see them again, and that next visit may result in arrest.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you all, and have a good evening.
We'll move on to agenda item 11, Public Works. And the first agenda item is consider proposal from Agronomic Advisors. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Same thing.
For the conduct of an agronomy and infrastructure assessment of Makefield Highlands Golf Club.
Yeah.
Correct. So in
Are
front of
you practiced at this point in terms of saying agronomy multiple times? And
I was back there saying.
okay.
It helps when you went
And obviously, as a highly intelligent person, I know what an agronomy is.
I had
But
to
if you
Google
wouldn't
it
mind
myself.
explaining for those who might.
I think that you do. Not all of us went to a school that had a large ag school.
So before the board this evening is the proposal for the analysis for an infrastructure assessment. So this was a child that came to fruition with the RFQ process that we're trying to do with Makefield Highlands, whether it's a management firm or potential lease opportunities. Working with Larry, this was probably, and I believe also a couple board members when we were going through the respondents for the RFQ process, that this would be a great tool in utilizing for Larry to get out to potential respondents to understand the facility conditions in terms of the grass, the turf, the bunkers, the bike paths, or the cart paths, sorry, and irrigation systems. So this would be a tool to use in that, to be able to give out to potential respondents for the RFQ process. Be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Before we begin questions, is there a motion on the floor?
Just to open the discussion,
Yeah.
I will move that we approve the proposal from Agronomic Advisors for the conduct of an agronomy and infrastructure assessment of Makefield Highlands Golf Club.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So this,
I have lots of questions.
sure. Supervisor Grenier, I'll let you go first.
Sure. Was this put out to RFP to anyone?
We have not, no. Due to the smaller scope of it, I believe it's sitting at about 13,000, and kind of goes with the RFQ process with Larry and his firm and his team. Kind of looked at it together, that it seems a reasonable proposal to us. No, so we have not gone out to RFQ or RFP.
So I'm going to make a recommendation. I'm going to vote no on this particular motion, not because I'm against the concept. Dave and I spoke about this earlier. I think it's worthwhile to do an analysis of the golf course. I've been saying that for probably 8.5 years. However, I think we need to do an analysis using golf course designers and engineers, landscape architects that design golf courses, to do a fundamental review of the golf course. Not, I looked at this company's website, and they're superintendents that do public speaking and seasonal different evaluations and corporate consultations and tournament consultations. Overall golf course stuff, operations more so than physical, review of the physical plant, so to speak. I'm sure they have some knowledge, but it's not to the extent of what an actual licensed engineer could do, and landscape architects who focus on golf course design. So I'm going to vote no on this particular one, but I would be in favor of putting this out to RFP to engage firms, engineering and/or landscape architecture firms that specialize in golf course design, to do a similar analysis, but with the correct credentials, in my opinion. And I've worked in this world in the past, designing golf courses, so I understand what they look at. I would by no means call myself an expert in it, but I have worked with true blue experts in this field who could probably do a very good evaluation of the golf course that we could use. At the same time, thinking out loud in terms of process in terms of the RFP that we're putting out, it is possible to, since this is not a heavy lift in some ways, to put this review on the responsibility of the RFP respondents rather than expending township money. So there's different approaches you could use. This is a fairly high-level approach in terms of this proposal. That might be something that a respondent might be able to do because of how lucrative a deal could be, a long-term deal could be, such that this is a drop in the bucket. Or if it's, if we're taking more responsibility for projects, then we would engage the engineer landscape architect, so we would know exactly what we need to do and how much money we need to spend over a long-term plan.
As I understand, most agronomists are looking also for planting, for food, and for things.
Which was a landscape architect.
Yes,
Yeah.
like I said, I went to a school with ag school and landscape architecture school. I understand. I think that we really need someone who, golf courses are what they do, because there's certain types of turf only work in certain climates and certain places.
Just to clarify, that's what
They do.
I'm not contesting what you're saying.
I don't know. That is what this.
They're
company does.
agronomists that their background is more in sort of the golf superintendent
Right.
work.
Okay.
So one of the
Yes.
principals
Is.
was at Oakmont in Pittsburgh. The other one was at Oak Hill in Rochester. So they
do
again, I'm not
understand.
taking away from the comment.
But
was
that-
made.
that was the whole thing, is I
do
wanna
wanna
make sure-
that you
yeah.
understand that
Okay, this
they are
wasn't a general-
specialized in
Yeah.
golf
Yeah.
course agronomy.
Yeah, 'cause
It's
that's what's
picking a grass
important.
type or turf type
Yes.
versus looking at the fundamental, the money we spend on the golf course is fundamentally related to drainage. That's not what they do. That's an engineering and landscape architecture study.
But I wouldn't this company have engineers that would be looking at things like drainage or?
Yeah, I would say, again.
I mean, I don't
would
know
say
with the
this
company,
is
that's-
a $13,000 spend is a 30,000-foot view, and that was, talking with Larry, is the intent is to just have a 30,000-foot view. Hey, we have irrigation issues, the system is X, Y, and Z, so respondents or leasees can put a dollar value to potential costs that they may have to incur in the future, or the township. So I don't think, and I don't think it's meant to be an end-all be-all. I think it's a 30,000-foot view from, to Dave's point, the golf course superintendent world of test the soils, see how the soils are doing, see how the bunkers are doing. Again, 30,000 foot. I don't think it's going to deep dive into you need to do X, Y, and Z to increase drainage or do better drainage. Or it could just be simple, hey, we see drainage here as an issue. Maybe these three things are possibilities. And then we
Have we spoke to to the golf committee? I don't think there's.
This has not gone to the golf, correct? I don't believe so, Dave.
This is not.
I would have liked, since they're there all the time, I would have liked to have heard their viewpoint on this, truthfully.
Doesn't Spirit regularly test the soils and check on the bunkers?
So I would say that this is almost like a third-party check, right? I mean, this is us checking ourselves.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, no, I agree.
on this one.
I think it's more like an audit of, I mean,
So
of course, it's,
if I may, I mean, I'm a couple, I guess, a question. So Derek, do you believe that we need an assessment of this type in order to properly craft an RFP, or do you believe that this is more of a third-party consultant has advised you that we should start from this point?
Working with Larry, I believe that this would be a great tool to have in the arsenal when the RFP or RFQ goes out to respondents.
Sure.
For them to be able to have something to know, something, right? I mean, right now they're going to have, this is almost like a third-party data check or an audit of what's out there from a facility standpoint. That's my opinion. Again, could there be other firms or other proposals that could do the same thing or do a higher level or a deeper dive? 100%. We could probably do a deeper dive in the analysis. I think that this is just, my opinion is this is a cursory review to have something in that RFQ that respondents can quantify and know what's future issues.
So some of the things that they're looking at in their proposal are the maintenance facilities, what are the state of the pump house and the restrooms, et cetera. So just a top level assessment of what kind of state of the course is, not from the incumbent, as relates to whether or not
And not from us either, right?
Yeah.
Not from us, yeah.
As to whether or not they have appropriate expertise, they list Aeronomic Golf Club. I was just there for the PGA Championship. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous course, and I'm not sure that I need a more glowing review of their qualifications to provide this sort of an assessment. So I'm still comfortable with my motion to approve, and Derek, if it's your professional opinion as our Director of Operations for the Township that this is going to help you properly manage the facility, then I'm all for it.
Before I call the question, just a thought about this. If this uncovers significant drainage issues or stormwater management issues that we know are there, also the pond is an issue that we have to work through, we would have the option of then going in saying, because our township engineer is right behind us, they could also do, on a per-hour basis, additional review.
100%,
Yeah.
correct, yeah.
And the reason why I say that is I'm thinking about, again, since we had our auditors here, any contingent liabilities. The more we know about what we have to do with the golf course going forward, the better we can make the decisions as to how we best manage it for the community. So my only thought on this, and I'm okay with this, is to make sure that if we sense that there's anything or they uncover anything drainage-wise, that we start that process sooner rather than later, because I think that is maybe our largest contingent liability within the golf course right now.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. And the other thing that I think when I was talking to the team, when we were talking to the team at Agronomic, was, they're going to look at also, our spend, right? Theoretically, our spend on the facility, how are we above par or below par in terms of turf management, stuff like that. So I think we're going to gain a lot out of the expense of this.
Yeah. The one other thing before I call a question is, we're still working on a grant, a federal grant for stormwater management. It's technically township-owned property, and so I'm wondering if grant proceeds could be used in that way to solve a stormwater management issue, that it might be helpful.
Yeah, I don't see any potential issue with that.
Okay.
Just on that issue, since you did bring it up, I did check in with the Congressman's office in terms of the status in light of the, I'll say the full funding of DHS, which again, our community projects funding was assigned to DHS as the oversight agency. He indicated to me that he was going to follow up and check on status. He says we are, just based on agencies that were fully funded, that were assigned these community project funding projects, we're still in sort of the normal time period for not hearing anything at this point, but he did confirm that funding is secured now with the recent action of the Congress. So I just wanted to make mention of that. But that is a potential use to address some of the challenges associated with.
And the reason why I make those things, it's similar to the discussion we've had about using sidewalks for stormwater management or how we do stuff, and then people come and complain, you're building a sidewalk when you could be cutting my taxes, or
Sure.
right? We want to tell people years in advance so that when they come back and complain, that we told them why we're doing it and under the constructs. So this is our way of sort of gently reminding people of the strategies we're taking, why we're doing it, and some of the trade-offs.
I mean, definitely good thinking in terms of stacking benefits associated with the utilization of that money to address both perhaps an operational issue in terms of the function of the course and also address a drainage issue. So that good idea.
Does this proposal include putting valuation on the golf course in case we want to look to sell it?
I would say that you would probably utilize the data generated in this report to be able to help, right? I'm trying to think of my words properly, right? You would need data from this report to know, again, contingent liabilities in terms of capital, right? So if this report may generate that you need $10 million in capital, that could affect the sale value, right? So I think this would help to understand what the sale value could be.
Does it put a value on the property itself?
I don't believe that's it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if that was I don't think that's a finding of it from this assessment. I don't believe that was a finding of it.
Okay. That's something.
Nor is that part of the scope of the RFQ that was selected through Golf Property
I would be
Analysis.
very concerned about, I understand what you're saying about the federal funds, but I'd also be very concerned about putting federal funds towards a golf course that may not, a very small percentage of our population ever uses it. We'd want to make sure that any funding we use to improve things at the golf course isn't only improving things at the golf course. It's improving things for the neighbors, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doesn't,
Neighborhoods. I don't know that that's going to be true.
so doesn't,
I would be in favor of
Yeah.
selling the golf course at some point.
doesn't rainfall in that region generally drain down towards the areas where we've had flooding issues in the past?
Not necessarily. It goes more directly to the canal. There's a direct shot there. So there's some potential benefit, but not. If we get $5 million, there's a lot more
Okay.
difficult issues.
We can address, we can
We
address where to
can
spend
debate
that
that, yeah.
when the time comes up.
And not for nothing, we did just find, 2 point something million? Where's Megan? So, there's that, too. That's a positive.
Oh, man. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Opposed?
Let the record reflect that the motion passed 3-1 with Supervisor Grenier and the negative on that.
Thanks, supervisors.
We'll move on to agenda item 12, Supervisors Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The meeting minutes should reflect that the supervisors present this evening met in executive session immediately prior to this meeting to discuss litigation matters. The first item on your agenda under solicitor's report is consideration of approval of an ordinance with respect to the International Fire Code with amendments. This was before you before. I can tell you that this has been properly advertised and it is right for your consideration this evening for passage.
So moved?
Second.
Any comments from anybody? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Let the record reflect that the motion passed 4-0.
The next two items are also with concerning ordinances. The first is to authorize the advertisement of an ordinance amending the Lower Makefield Township zoning ordinance, providing for language that other lawful uses not explicitly provided for shall be permitted by conditional use in the commercial highway services or C2 district.
So moved?
Second?
Any discussion on this item?
Should we give a little explanation?
Yeah.
I
Sure.
think would be helpful.
I can tell you that this proposed ordinance mimics a language that is already in our zoning code in the C3 district. The C3 district is our general business and industrial district. This just expands the other uses not otherwise specified in our zoning code into the C2 commercial highway services.
Yeah, and correct me if I misspeak on any of this, please. This is important because when a developer of some type comes to the township and says, we want to put XYZ development in somewhere in the township, if we don't allow for that type of land use type, then they often will come to the zoning hearing board, apply for a use variance, and it's often difficult for the zoning hearing board to issue that use variance because by law we have to offer an opportunity for a developer to develop that use in the township. So this covers us in that when we allow for something that is not explicitly covered to be constructed in a district by conditional use, in this case C2 is what we're talking about. A conditional use means that the applicant has to come before the Board of Supervisors. If it was special exception, it would be in front of the Planning Commission and Zoning Hearing Board. But in this case, conditional use would have to come in front of the Zoning Hearing Board for the board to decide whether or not that type of development could occur. You know, we've seen in recent applications and even some recent lawsuits where they've claimed that we don't allow for certain things in certain districts. This is sort of a cover-all. A lot of townships do this throughout the Commonwealth, but this is sort of a blanket coverage for land use types. Is that?
That's a fair assessment, yes. And again, it's to protect us against claims made by developers and others that we don't allow for certain types of uses. By law, a municipality must provide for all lawful uses. So this allows these lawful uses, unless otherwise specified in certain districts, to go in the C2, and they are currently permitted in our C3 district. And it is by conditional use, as you mentioned.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I see that there's a number of additional requirements, the A, B, C, and D. Do those requirements potentially create a condition where an applicant can say, well, it's permitted, but it's not actually permitted when you stack these things together? Or really just kind of reiterating, this is the process, and we're just kind of...
I cannot promise you that an applicant will not argue that it is a barrier or an impediment, but I can tell you that this is reflective of what we already have, and we're very comfortable with this language. There's nothing too onerous about A through D as far as requirements or conditions are concerned.
Okay. Yeah, as long as you're comfortable that we aren't creating a burden that's going to subject us to a weaker defense.
Yeah, I think our general suggestion on certain uses, some of the emergent uses that we talked about at the last meeting, while this language is sufficient to protect against some sort of validity challenge as it relates to the ordinance, more specific regulations governing uses is better than general requirements for uses. So I'm just pointing that out, and I don't want folks to think that this is the end-all, be-all in terms of the discussion that occurred at the prior meeting. We would continue to recommend that you look at, particularly for certain emergent uses, that you have specific criteria governing those respective uses and not just simply default back to this criteria.
Thank you.
Just to note, first, thank Supervisor Coyle and Supervisor Grenier for pushing on this, which is, I think, very helpful in light of recent changes in land use. The township has done similar things as it relates to the OR district, where we modified the difference to create conditional use on warehouses, for example. And so the goal here is to give the township the ability to kind of manage as best we can, recognizing that property owners have rights, and we're subject to the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and we want to make sure we balance those correctly. Are there any public comments in the audience or on the phone? With that, I call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let the record reflect that the motion passed 4-0.
Thank you. We will send this up to Bucks County Planning Commission for their review. It's a zoning amendment, so it must be reviewed by them, and then make sure that it's properly advertised thereafter. The third ordinance before you this evening is to authorize the advertisement of an ordinance amending the Lower Makefield Township Responsible Contractor Ordinance. Does anybody
So moved.
Can I ask what the amendment?
There was a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Can I ask what parts we're amending? did not get a shot to read this completely.
There are significant changes, suggestions made. I think of primary importance is the dollar level for the contractor. Right now, we have a $75,000 threshold. We're proposing to increase it to $250,000, which we've seen across a number of townships, and it's very helpful for Derek and Public Works and everybody else in trying to bid out certain contracts. With that, there are a couple of what is before you in your packet. We had even a couple of more changes that we were proposing. Nothing really substantive, but things that will clean it up and make it easier to allow Public Works and the township to do their job in bidding out contracts.
And you can correct me if I misspeak, but we started this process, November of 2020?
I can tell you it was, I have it written down. It's, yeah.
Well, I mean, we updated.
You updated it
updated
from what
it.
we did a few years ago.
Yeah.
I did
So this
have
is
it,
something basically something we've been
yeah.
covering for a while.
Yeah, and again,
September of '24,
September even.
And so September 2024, it was before you, so we had started months beforehand revising it and drafting it. So yes, this has been a long, drawn-out process to get to where we are. But what is before you this evening, in addition to a couple of other changes that we are proposing, again, not necessarily material, but changes nonetheless that we think makes it read better and work better for the township.
I guess the biggest thing is the sort of threshold number to make sure that we give our folks the flexibility to be able to bid certain things out using our things like co-stars and other methods and approaches that allow for savings when we're able to use those, but at the same time for large projects to make sure that we genuinely get the best performance.
Yeah, I would say that, it's trying to balance those things, right? And the adjustment to the threshold in terms of applicability is to reflect, again, just sort of the inflationary environment that we find ourselves in. The ordinance, as Maureen has drafted, provides for some escalation on that threshold as time goes past based on annual adjustment in the consumer price index. But to your point, Dan, it also imposes more, I don't want to say strict, but requires more of contractors for larger scale projects, is looking at workforce development, those kinds of things. So it's trying to strike a balance between, again, the appropriateness of when it applies, but in those circumstances where it likely should apply, it's imposing a higher standard, if you will, on respondents.
Thank you. That's kind of what I read. I know with inflation, what we had as a figure was not very realistic.
Yeah, I would say there are a number of compliance mechanisms built into this, which are very helpful. If we're going to spend a large sum of money with the contractor, we want to make sure that the contractor is
compliant,
do what we think they are, and this can't ensure, but it will help us ensure that it will moving in the right direction.
Is there any public comment on this issue? Is there any public comment on the phone?
I have a question for the solicitor, Mr. Vice Chair.
Sure.
So related to Section 99.3, Contractor Responsibility Certifications, C, Parent 8. The firm will pay all craft employees that employs on the project at a minimum the current wage rates and benefits as required under the Pennsylvania Prevailing Wage Act for the duration of the reference project. The Pennsylvania Prevailing Wage Act, is that minimum wage or is that?
No.
Far exceeds.
Perfect.
Far exceeds
Thank
minimum.
you. I want to make sure if we are going to be raising our limit to $250,000, we're making sure that people are being paid fairly
Yes.
for the work that they're performing under this contract,
Yeah.
regardless of our General Assembly's continued inaction on minimum wage.
Yeah, and the applicability of that statute is much lower than the 250,000. So this is just simply inherent in a contract of that value. You would be required statutorily to pay prevailing wage. So the threshold for prevailing wage is $25,000. So any contract over that amount, this is just simply restating that requirement and supporting compliance with the statute.
On that matter, and I don't want to slow this particular ordinance change, but is it worthwhile for us to consider that any work performed under such a contract, that employee be paid a rate above minimum wage? We can certainly make that part of a
In
bid
terms
requirement.
of what would be your monetary threshold? Because again, at 25,000, you're required to comply with Pennsylvania's
For
prevailing.
craft employees, but not any and all employees that perform work under the contract, correct?
Everything is subject to, yeah.
Everybody.
So any employee of a corporation that does any work under a contract would be required to be paid under the Prevailing Wage Act, not subject to minimum wage,
Above 25,000.
for a contract above 25,000. Okay.
That's how I read it, is it's prevailing wage.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I'll let the record reflect that the motion passed 4-0. Moving on to agenda item 13, discussion items. Since Matt's not here, we can discuss things. No. I didn't plan for any discussion items at this time, and Matt didn't give me any when he called me, so.
I'll bring up one that I could have done during my supervisor report as well.
Okay.
And it's something that I think some of us sat in on this week.
Okay.
And it's more of a raising it now, not a deep discussion. I don't expect to have it. So this week, Senator Sierro's office invited many Bucks County municipal officials to sit in on a presentation on what I'll say formerly known as, or adjacent to, the Blue Zones, which is, generally speaking, how I would define it. They probably do a better job than me, but taking a holistic approach in municipal government to quality of life issues for our residents. So healthy living, connectivity, planning generally, et cetera. Healthy living meaning everything from like exercise in parks to food options, healthy food options in our township. So the senator's taking the lead on working with other folks in Bucks County, and I believe BCHIP, formerly part of the health department, to begin to establish programs across all of our municipalities. And they had a couple presentations over the last few days. I, for one, was very excited about what I saw there. I think our township already this suits our township very well. I think a lot of the planning we've been doing as part of our master plan process over the last several years, as part of the steering committee process, as part of a lot of, some of the zoning ordinances and other ordinances we put out there, and just our park and rec program, everything else, fit very nicely already into that. But I think if we do participate by developing sort of a blue zone committee for whatever it ends up being.
New acronym.
Yes.
Live, Live Bucks.
That's right, yeah.
Life.
But if we do end up doing that, I think that would give us access to more resources to our community to have even more ideas on how we can do things better. So more to come. We haven't gotten all the details yet, but I just thought it was really neat idea that I think a lot of us.
I found it extremely interesting, and the points that were brought out kind of took me back to, I look at my grandparents and great-grandparents who lived close to 100 years old each, and I realized they went through rationing of sugar, so they weren't eating, well, they weren't having corn syrup sugar, and they weren't eating a lot of sugar. They walked places. They had community. And when I say community, it isn't just people their own age. They also love the fact that you could hear children and animals and just basic nature, and I think that's something we've gotten away from, and I think it's something we need to get back to. So,
Agree. But ultimately, just that may turn into we may want to create a committee with recommendations.
it could either be a committee or a subcommittee of Parks and Recreation, truthfully.
Yeah, there's lots of options there, but
There's a lot.
maybe upcoming.
Yeah.
I attended that as well. Was in many ways, we were ahead of the curve. Once they started having the meetings, we had our planning exercise, so we've been kind of lock and step on that and thinking through those kinds of things. So, so for those who are interested in municipal policy, keep watching that. We'll move on to agenda item 14, Supervisors Report. Again, Chairman Ross is unfortunately not able to be here. And by the way, you think he's getting a good deal out of this. He has to go back to work at 4 in the morning, so he gets our kudos for putting the work in. I have a limited report. The Citizens Traffic Commission was slated to meet earlier this week, but didn't have a quorum. That's the only item I have. Supervisor Coyle?
I will note that the Historic Architecture Review Board is in need of a licensed real estate broker who has an interest in historic architecture to join that board to enable it to fulfill its statutory functions. If you are or know a licensed real estate broker, please reach out to admin@lmt.org. We will throw a ticker tape parade in your honor. I was lying about the last part, but not the need. So that is the only thing I have to report, other than to say thank you so much to the many, many skilled volunteers who dedicate all of their time to our various boards and commissions.
Supervisor Reese?
Golf Committee met. They have really started out having a banner year, but I would like to put in a plug for them. The Golf Committee would like, if you are planning a golf outing, to consider using Makefield Highlands. They are prepared to do a wonderful job to help you with your outing. Parks and Rec met. We need some people to volunteer to be on Parks and Recreation, especially if you're younger. We really would like to have you come and join Parks and Recreation. Our seniors had the 250 4th of July. It was wonderful. They had a group of men singers that I'm going to try to get for 9/11. And their only request is, again, about the parking. And as I was at a meeting last night and got there late, I ended up on the grass. And I can certainly understand the seniors, some of whom do require walkers or a cane, having to deal with the pebbles. It's not a really safe issue. So again, I'm asking that we consider maybe adding some more parking towards that back.
Supervisor Grenier?
So the Zoning Hearing Board met last night. A couple of the issues were fairly typical, pools and impervious surface. They are starting to be consistent relative to, there was a request to put a fence in an aqua sewer easement that they denied. So it's important to respect our utility easements, whether it's a Lower Makefield Township utility or an Aqua utility or PA Water utility or an a PICO utility or whoever else, because in an emergency, something goes bad, you need access to these utilities to fix things. So we're seeing that again, and the impervious surface issues continue to come up with pools and whatnot. And just sort of a semi-announcement, the Stony Hill SR 332 planning steering committee, starting to plan for public meetings, public open houses for vision sessions fairly soon, towards the end of July. So more to come on that, but that should be an interesting one to attend. That's it for me.
Excellent. I don't believe we have any other business unless I'm not seeing any. There's no official appointments to boards, reappointments at this time. At this time, this is the second opportunity for public comment, so if you were waiting in line at the first opportunity, or if something hit you, or you want to come in now, please come to the podium. Is there anyone on the line? No one on the line. Excellent. With that, I will close the additional public comment, move on to agenda item 18, which I believe many folks' favorite agenda item, which is adjournment.
I so move.
You got out before?